about you growing up here. What kind of backstory do you want people to know?
Technically, I've been working on making $1 million, my whole life, but
She kind of lost like that spark in her eye.
and it made me begin to question what I was doing. I'm getting to the point where I need to make money. Anything that would allow me to sustain myself without feeling like I was trapped into something. And I was able to experience this freedom that I wanted in my life.
You could tell that my sister had a desire in her, like a urge to create this thing, and she was being blocked and stopped from being able to create it.
She was just this vibrant, bright, loud, confident person.
Are you really gonna give that up? And I was like, yeah.
There was emotional things that were coming up.
But since they let me go, it just gave me it gave me so much freedom. It gave me so much lightness. And I was really beginning to express myself as who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And I was able to then start my insurance exam queen business. Okay. All right, ready? Yes. I'm good. Okay. So I had created so much business for the company that they had to hire way more instructors than what they had. And then they had me train the instructors so that they would teach like me, talk like me, and have the same pass rates like me. So the teaching team, it completely expanded. And I was actually able even to bring my friend on as a teacher.
My name is Randy Lockhart, and I am the COO of Insurance Exam Queen with Melissa Dillon. I've known Melissa for over a decade. So I actually met Melissa, it's probably about 12 years ago. We were at a workout boot camp. Hundreds of people went to this boot camp, and people shared their stories and whatnot. But she immediately stood out to me, and it's kind of funny. I hadn't talked to her or anything, but she was just this vibrant, bright, loud, confident person. And she had this wild necklace on. And one of the people in her group of friends, they were kind of standing next to us, said, oh my gosh, if anybody could wear that necklace, Melissa could. And I just remember that standing out. And then later on, her sister spoke at the event, Sarah, and she really stood out to me, and her story kind of connected. And when I realized they were sisters, they even stood out to me a bit more. And at that point, you kind of just followed everybody on social media that you met at these events. So, I mean, I remember following them on social media and whatnot, and she just continued to amaze me. We got to know each other more, seeing each other at events. We were both in insurance. We both had just kind of similar things going on, but we were primarily social media friends, commenting on stuff, liking stuff and whatnot. But I just continued to follow her story because probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And throughout time, we ended up getting closer and working together, things like that. I say now that when I saw her, it's almost like I knew this girl would change my life. I don't know if I knew it at the time. Retrospect's always a little bit clearer. There was something about her, and there definitely still something is. So she was posting that she was teaching for an insurance company, and I was working for an Allstate agency out in Los Angeles. She was in Arizona, and so I asked her about it, and she ended up getting me a job there also as an instructor to teach insurance.
She ended up taking the manager position. I didn't want it because I'm like, I don't want to manage people. I just want to teach people. She took over, she expanded, she helped to grow all of this.
They all reached out to Melissa. She was, the best instructor there. We were all following her lead. She didn't want the manager position, so she recommended me. And so just, a couple months in as being a teacher for that company, I was applying for the instructor manager because I did have a lot of manager background. I did get that role. And so she and I worked side by side. While I was the instructor manager, I wasn't necessarily like her boss. We were more like a team, but I managed the instructors.
I, at that point, actually was a full-time employee for them.
This is when she started traveling a lot, and I was the one trying to make that all happen, trying to keep up with the demand for Melissa, because we had not seen anything like it.
Initially, I was contracted with them. I told my manager, if my, what's it called? Cobra, something on there, that's an exam question. Cobra, I had it from my teaching job, and it only lasts 18 months. And, having had cancer before and my thyroid stuff, I have a daily medication I need to take. I have to have my blood drawn every so often. That's a whole other story, my cancer in my boarding school. But anyway, I needed medical coverage. So I told my boss, who had hired me, that I was like, if you guys don't give me medical coverage, I'm gonna have to go somewhere else. So they like turned the world around at the company to make sure that I was offered a full-time position so that I could have benefits and they wouldn't lose me. So now I literally built my position. I made myself so valuable to the company that they created a position just for me, and then they have to expand the team and bring these people on. Well, every other instructor was still hourly. I was the only one that was full-time on salary. The manager of the teachers was like, well, they're hourly and they need hours. And so they scheduled all of them for classes. I was no longer teaching. Very rarely was I teaching because I had trained all of them to be little clones of me. Since I was on salary, they didn't book me. So I'm just sitting at my computer. I'm like, this sucks. I felt like it was back in my call center days of being chained to my desk. I wasn't required to do anything other than answer some emails, but I also felt like I couldn't just leave my desk. So I was just like trapped. I felt like trapped all the time because I was living under the beliefs in these conditions. If they're paying you 8 hours a day, you need to sit here 8 hours a day. Back when I was traveling, I didn't have that feeling, but it just kind of led to this point where I got really dissatisfied with what I was doing. I'm not loving this spot where I'm at. And one of the companies that had hired the corporate company I was for to come and teach classes decided to have an in-person hired in-house instructor. I was like, oh my God, like somebody had sent me the link and they're like, you're perfect for this. And I'm like, I am perfect. They would totally want me. Like they requested me to come to all of their classes in multiple locations. I was teaching for them in Texas, in Mississippi, in Oklahoma. I know there's another one out there somewhere, but I don't remember. But they had me teach all the time for them. And so now they're hiring an in-person, in-house instructor. But I was like, this company is kind of meh, and I would not do it. I will not work for them unless they were to pay at least $100,000. And someone's like, well, do you know how much they're gonna pay? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, go find out. So I call HR because they already know me. And they're like, oh yeah, like this is a $90,000 to $100,000. I was like, that's mine. Like I am making $100,000, no doubt in my mind. That's my job, $100,000. And they wanted to move me to the South, which is near my sister. And I was so super excited because I at the time I was in Vegas and I didn't want to be in Vegas anymore. I knew this job was mine. Every part of my body, every cell in my body knew that this job was mine, absolutely 100%. And so what that did for me was it allowed me to believe that $100,000 is mine. I should definitely be making $100,000 for what I was doing. Having come from the mindset of teaching in a public school system, making $30,000 to $40,000, it was a hard stretch to think that I could believe that I could make $100,000. But working at the corporate company, I had gotten myself up to like 60, sometimes close to 70 with bonuses, but I wanted like 100,000 no matter what. Now my body, my energy, my cells, my alignment is that I should be making $100,000. That job did not pan out. Like it ended very abruptly. The person in charge was like, got weird about it and it just dissolved. But I didn't feel any type of way about it because I was still vibrating at like, I should be making $100,000. The idea of that job also sparked in me that I can, if I was to leave the company I was at, which was a company of teaching the insurance exam, and go to this other company who's in the business of call centers, if I was able to start a YouTube channel teaching the insurance exam and have that job, I wouldn't be in conflict of interest.